flag is win. Baba is yours. Cool is the feet. Wall stop. Rocket stop.
The grenade is great for nailing an enemy behind cover or just doing decent damage to a large decent damage, but this move is especially useful for making an enemy vulnerable. Once you get hit with a grenade, you'll be knocked down and stunned, which can allow you to get some hits in with your basic bolts. Upgrades can increase the damage, and it makes it useful for boss fights. Some enemies might be a little too far away to hit, or in a tricky spot, and you can use a precision shot, which is essentially a tighter, deadlier, and as the name would suggest, more precise basic bolt shot. It uses a large amount of power and has its use for sniping enemies that are being a little too evasive. The megawatt hammer is an electric missile that uses a moderate amount of electricity and does a fair bit of damage. It's useful for boss fights as the rocket moves quite slowly, and it's meant for when an enemy is in a very compromised position, as otherwise most enemies will just evade the attack. The thunderclap stops you crashing into the ground in order to do damage to nearby enemies. It doesn't use any power, but I didn't find much use for it, as the game heavily encourages you to play the range game. If you are up close and personal, then you might as well use some of your nifty melee attacks, which sequel just punching the enemy. Melee does barely any damage, and I legitimately could not find the proper use for it. You also unlock an electric shield, which can be used in very particular scenarios, and this was an upgrade I actually forgot about because I never really used it. Finally, the last upgrade you get is the lightning sword, which just annihilates whatever it hits. It uses a metric acid of energy, and it's a great move. There's also something called a carbon. Essentially, gold for a brief period of time will have, say it with me, boys, unlimited power! So, it can be achieved once your karmic rank is maxed out, and that is certainly going to take some work. However, this will allow you to cause a hell of a lot of havoc. It's a neat power, and while it could be considered pretty overpowered, you can't use it all that often, and every time you use it, it drains some of your karma meter, meaning you'll have to wait quite some time to get it back to max. I really like the selection of powers, or at least most of them. My issue doesn't lie with the power themselves, but more the way that they're used in gameplay. It seemed like the levels and the enemies are designed for a cover shooter, but the powers are designed for a game that's more movement-based. I feel like the level design and the enemies are constantly at odds with the powers. The levels have many barricades and ledges for cover, and you can shoot from whatever you're latched onto, and there are a lot of powers that help you deal with other enemies that are behind cover, such as the grenades, but enemies will often move far too quickly, and a lot of enemies will just flat out rush you, so in a lot of cases, you need to be on the move. When you're outside of cover, you get riddled with bullets, so I feel like I'm getting so many mixed signals from this game. And on top of that, it feels like the game is way too hard. Now, I know I'm about to get bombarded by a million comments calling me a scrub and I should just get good, but hear me out, okay? I played this game once on normal difficulty and once on easy, and there are a bunch of enemies that can one-shot you. Any explosives like grenades or the rockets can one-shot you, and the enemies move much faster than you in some cases, meaning that the enemies can very quickly surround you, and when most of these enemies have grenade launchers, bazookas, or shotguns which two-shot you, even on easy mode, and some of them can go invisible, I found myself saying, oh, what the fuck, on multiple occasions. The levels were also padded out quite frequently, as a lot of missions saw you doing the same task multiple times, and these tasks were usually spaced out across the entire map, meaning you would have to go.
Baba is you.